So Pierre Poilievre walks into the Postmedia boardroom and says 2025 has been a hell of a year. And honestly, that might be the understatement of the century. Because nothing screams everything's fine quite like your own MPs jumping ship, your caucus looking shakier than a house of cards in a windstorm, and suddenly doing interviews with the very network you promised to defund. I mean, when you go from I'll shut down CBC immediately to sitting in their studios like it's your favorite coffee shop, you know something's gone sideways. Welcome back to Canadian Insights, where we break down the drama faster than Pierre can say common sense Canadians. Today we're diving into the conservative chaos, the cracks in the caucus, and why the guy who was supposed to be cruising to victory is now playing defense. Buckle up, because this rollercoaster just hit a loop-de-loop. Let's rewind 12 months. Picture this, Pierre Poilievre, riding high, poll numbers looking sweeter than maple syrup on pancakes, confidently telling everyone he'd defund the CBC so fast it would make your head spin. The energy was electric. The base was fired up. Election victory seemed inevitable. Fast forward to now, and not only did that election never happen, but Pierre's giving sit-down interviews with CBC like they're old buddies catching up over Tim Hortons. The irony isn't just rich, it's Jeff Bezos rich. It's like promising to boycott pizza and then getting caught hosting a pizza party. And sure, you can argue he's being strategic, meeting Canadians where they are, but come on. The optics are about as subtle as a moose in a china shop. But here's where it gets spicy. Because the CBC interview flip-flop is just the appetizer. The main course is the caucus revolt that's brewing like a prairie storm. MPs are defecting. Unity is fraying faster than a cheap sweater. And whispers of a leadership review are getting louder than question period on a bad day. When members of your own team start eyeing the exits, that's not just a crack in the foundation, that's structural damage. And Pierre knows it. You can practically hear the alarm bells ringing from Ottawa to Vancouver. Now let's talk about those defections for a second. When MPs jump ship, it's never just about policy disagreements or scheduling conflicts. It's about confidence. Or the lack thereof. It's about looking at the captain of the ship and thinking, yeah, maybe I should grab a lifeboat. And in politics, perception is everything. Once the narrative shifts from inevitable winner to leader under siege, it spreads faster than wildfire in Alberta. Suddenly, donors get nervous. Supporters start hedging their bets. And the media smells blood in the water like sharks at feeding time. So what's Pierre's response to all this chaos? Well, he's doubling down on populism, baby. He's not backing down. He's not apologizing. He's throwing it back to the members. Who runs the party, he asks. Backroom deal makers or the welders and waitresses and plumbers and police officers? It's a classic move, straight out of the populist playbook. Paint yourself as the people's champion fighting against the establishment elites. Frame any challenge to your leadership as an attack on democracy itself. Remind everyone that the grassroots picked you, and only the grassroots can unpick you. It's bold. It's defiant. And honestly, it might just work. Because here's the thing about conservative members, they don't like being told what to do by backroom power brokers. They really don't. Pierre knows his base, and he knows that framing this as us versus them puts him on the right side of that equation. He's positioning himself as the outsider fighting the insiders, even though he's literally the leader of the party. It's political judo, using the momentum of the opposition against itself. And whether you love him or hate him, you've got to admit it's a smart play. But let's pump the brakes for a second and ask the real question, how did we get here? How did the guy who was supposed to demolish Trudeau and waltz into 24 Sussex end up fighting for his political life? Well, turns out governing, or even shadow governing, is harder than opposition slogans. Axe the tax is catchy. Just bring it home, sounds great on a bumper sticker. But when the rubber meets the road and you've got MPs with their own ambitions, caucus members with regional concerns, and a party apparatus that doesn't always march in lockstep, things get complicated real fast. Politics isn't a one-person show, even if Pierre sometimes acts like it is. And then there's the timing. The longer you wait for that election that never comes, the more cracks start to show. It's like being perpetually ready for a party that keeps getting postponed. Eventually, people start questioning if the party's even happening. The enthusiasm wanes. The doubts creep in. And suddenly, the unstoppable momentum everyone was talking about looks more like a slow grind to nowhere. Justin Trudeau's still Prime Minister, the election's still somewhere over the horizon, and Pierre's burning political capital just keeping his own house in order. Now, about that leadership review. Pierre's technically right. According to the party's rules, members decide leadership. But here's what every political junkie knows. If enough of your caucus turns on you, if enough high-profile conservatives start whispering to reporters, if the narrative becomes leader in crisis, then it doesn't matter what the rulebook says. You're toast. Because politics runs on confidence, and once that's gone, it's like trying to put toothpaste back in the tube. Possible? Maybe. Easy? Absolutely not. So where does this leave Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party? Well, in limbo, basically. He's not down for the count, not by a long shot. The man's got fight in him, that's for sure. His populist appeals still resonate with the base. His fundraising's still strong. And he's betting everything on the idea that when push comes to shove, party members will have his back against the so-called elites. But he's also facing headwinds that would make any politician sweat. Defections hurt. Disunity spreads. And in Canadian politics, nothing's inevitable until the votes are actually counted. The irony is delicious, though. Pierre built his brand on being the outsider, the disruptor, the guy who'd shake things up. And now he's fighting to maintain control using the same institutional structures he used to rail against. He's become the establishment he claimed to oppose. That's not a criticism, that's just politics. Everyone's a revolutionary until they're the one in charge. Then suddenly, rules and procedures start looking pretty important. Look, 2025 might have been a hell of a year for Pierre Poilievre, but the story's far from over. Will he weather this storm and emerge stronger? Will the caucus fall in line? Or are we watching the beginning of a conservative civil war that could reshape Canadian politics? Your guess is as good as mine, but I'll tell you what, it's going to be entertaining to watch. So if you want to stay ahead of the political chaos, hit that subscribe button and smash the notification bell, because we're posting multiple times a day with all the updates, analysis, and sarcasm you can handle. Drop a comment below. Do you think Pierre survives this pressure cooker, or is his leadership on borrowed time? Let's debate. This is Canadian Insights, and remember, in Canadian politics, the only guarantee is that nothing's guaranteed. Catch you in the next one.